I'm Kim Dwinell, and I'm the author and illustrator of the Surfside Girls graphic novel series. I've got 2 books out right now. I've got The Secret of Danger Point and The Mystery of the Old Rancho, and I'm working on book 3 right now, which I'm calling right now The Clue in the Stinky Fish, and my editor doesn't like it, but I'm pushing because I thought it was funny. So anyway, thank you for having me here. And so I thought I'd start out by kind of giving you a little background on who I am, and strangely we're having this air show, excuse me, right next to us. I'm a military pilot's daughter, so I grew up all over the planet going from base to base, and that's sort of my childhood, and that really informed a lot of who I am, quite honestly, and this is sort of, it's so nice to have it right out the window. So I was born in North Carolina and spent a very short period of time there, and then Dad went to Vietnam and I went to Brooklyn, where the family was from, and then he came back from Vietnam and we went to Florida, where he learned to fly, and then we landed in the Golden State, Southern California. And my parents bought a house in 1972 in Mission Viejo, and for whatever reason, a little seed was planted in Kim, where like, this is home, this is the golden land, like this is it. So within 3 years we were off to Japan. We spent a year in Japan, 4 years in Florida. All that time kind of yearning to come back to the homeland. And so it started to develop like this mythological thing for me, like this mysticism, like getting back to the Golden State. And so that, Florida back around to California, and at this point in time, I'm in junior high, and I'm getting into surfing. And every time we moved around, because my father was a Marine, that meant we were on an ocean. So family fun at the beach. When I was feeling teenage angsty in Okinawa at the seawall, back to the beach. So the ocean became really important to me, and everywhere I moved around, that was really the only constant. And then I had this yearning to come back to our home. And all of that is what is informing my work. Like I said, I spent a lot of time in the ocean. I learned to surf because I thought there was a cute boy who surfed. And it turns out I liked the surfing a lot more than I liked the boy. The surfing stuck with me for life. So surfing led me to, I was a triathlete, swam in the ocean a lot, and then a beach lifeguard in Laguna Beach. So a lot of surfing, a lot of swimming, a lot of being in the ocean. One particular day, I was about 20 years old, 20 or 21, and I'm out doing a training swim in Laguna Beach. And it was this perfect day like today, and you can see all the way 20 feet down to the sand in the ocean without goggles. We weren't allowed to wear goggles. And I can see through the kelp forest, I can see the Garibaldi, and I can see the starfish on the rocks, and I can see the leopard sharks down below, and the rays of sunlight were coming down. And I thought to myself, I don't think it's ever gonna get better than this day. Like something is magical going on here. And who knew? Like I had no idea. All of this that I was doing, going to community college, doing triathlons, lifeguarding, taking art classes, who knew that that was going to fuel all of this? But little seeds were sticking in my head, in my soul, and I was kind of falling, this is sort of a love letter to Southern California, I was kind of falling deeper and deeper into this thing. So that's, let me look at my notes here. So that's, Southern California kind of became my compass, my compass traveling around the world. And then not just that, the ocean became sort of my solace and a character in my life. Let's see. I have actually surfed with dolphins, like out at churches. There are so many, I'll show slides later, but there are so many times throughout this, that period of my life that starts to show up in the book. So anyway, beyond that, so that's sort of like who I am. As I started to research both of these books, I started to look into like, okay, my characters are 2 like 12-year-old girls. They solve mysteries, right? And it's in this Southern California thing. So I started to go to the rancho houses and do research. I learned a lot about the Tongva people who lived here first. And as I'm researching the Tongva and digging through websites and navigating the internet, I realized, strangely, that their Jerusalem, their Holy Land, was on my campus of Cal State Long Beach. Their Pavagna. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm on ground zero here. And so I would go walk around and look at the prayer flags, and I thought, this land has been through so much, and it's had so many people on it, and they've meant so much to this land, and this land has meant so much to them. So also in doing this research, especially for the rancho, going to these rancho houses and researching what history they had on the native peoples. Also, then the rancho period, which was super fascinating. Like, did you know that we had a pirate ravaging the coast? And did you know his name was Hippolyte Bouchard, and he was an Argentinian. And he sailed around the Horn, and he burned Monterey, and he burned San Juan Capistrano because there was gold going up and down. And this was a wild and woolly world. It was like kind of its own funky thing. Did you also know, in this research that I did, that San Diego is a huge port. And so the ships would go to Hawaii, they called the Sandwich Isles, and back, and they would offload and onload different sailors. And some of the sailors they would take on were islanders. And when they came back to San Diego and they were offloaded the ship, they made use of, on San Diego, the Russians had built a giant bread oven. And they had abandoned it. And the Hawaiians moved into the bread oven. So 1800s, you've got a bunch of Hawaiians living in a bread oven on the beach in San Diego. Like, the stories that come out of California are amazing, and they're diverse, and they're crazy, full of all sorts of people's comings and going. Also in the research, California was its own thing for 20 years, from like 1820 to 1840. It was just California, sort of this country of California. And I feel sort of like we still are. I feel like California kind of has its own thing going on. And in book 2, in doing my research, I found that up until the late 1700s, because the Spanish had first found the tip of Baja California, they thought California was an island. And those maps from up until the mid-1700s still had California as an island, the mythical island of California. And doesn't that just seem appropriate? Because I kind of feel that's who we are too. So anyway, this is all sort of my love affair with California, especially Southern California. It getting into my soul, and then kind of being furthered by the research I've done. I can show you some slides here of my influences. Let's see. Let me.
Aww.
Anyone?
No, I want to go back to the Mickey Mouse one.
Okay, I'll show you. This is early Kim. And this is about that. I was about 3 years old and we're living in Mission Viejo. And notice that I've got the mouse ears and I've got Mickey Mouse here on my shirt and the mouse tail. I think I was trying to be Mickey. So, a young girl going to Disneyland. But very soon after, I fell in love with this fox. I mean, I was probably 4, and I have a thing for Robin Hood. And not just Robin Hood, but 101 Dalmatians, and The Jungle Book. All of these early Disney movies really influenced me. That, like, something woke up in me, and my mom would get me the book of records, and I would sit on my little floor, and I would just stare at these pictures. And I didn't know it then, but the artist that was responsible for storyboarding this whole film, his name is Bill Peet. He wrote a series of children's books after he left Disney. But my character in this book, Pete, is spelled P-E-E-T, in honor of Bill Peet, the storyboard artist who kind of set me up for what I wanted to do with my life, and I wanted to be a Disney animator. And wasn't I lucky that I got to do that? So that was the career before this career, and I'll talk about that in a minute. More influences. Flipper, do you remember Flipper?
I got to swim with Flipper.
Did you get to swim with Flipper?
He's still around.
Really? The Flipper? Wow. Okay, so
The stunt Flipper.
The stunt Flipper. I would watch this show and go, the guy has a boat and a pet dolphin. Like, it really, I don't know that it gets better than that. And that's kind of, I thought, when I grow up, I want to have a boat and a pet dolphin. I don't have a dolphin, but I do have a boat. Okay, more. Nancy Drew. I read a lot of Nancy Drew's, and I still love mysteries quite a bit. So what I'm doing at this point, when I saw a book called Blankets that came out, Craig Thompson's Blankets came out with Top Shelf, and it was a giant, thick graphic novel that I'd never seen anything like it before in my life, and I thought, this is what I want to do. But what I did was start taking, like, what do I love? What are all the elements of things that I love to put in this giant crock pot and make my own thing? And so you're seeing some of the things that are going into the crock pot. Scooby-Doo. I like campy, I like ridiculous humor, and that part of my book comes from this. Like, I like that mystery. What I loved about Scooby-Doo is that the beginning, sort of like Phineas and Ferb, the beginning is the same, and the ending is the same, and that's so rewarding when you're 5, but how are we going to get there? Every time the journey there is different, and so I love the storytelling in this. These are some films I worked on out of college. So right out of college, I got hired onto The Swan Princess, and I went from there on to Capstone Dance for Turner, and then on to Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan for Disney, and I left Disney when The Emperor's New Groove was still Kingdom of the Sun. And so that's about when we parted ways. And it had been a long run in animation, and I was tired of drawing. It was a lot of hours. Mulan, we went 7 days a week for 6 weeks, probably like 12 or 14-hour days, and couldn't feel my hands anymore. And so it was time to kind of take a break. But do you know what this taught me? This period of my life, this 10 years, taught me how to sit in the chair and draw drawing after drawing. And that's really important if you want to do graphic novels, because it's a lot of drawings and it's the same character over and over. And if you don't have the discipline to sit down and do it, it's like training. It's like training for a half marathon. You can't just go do it. You have to take little steps. And this was the build-up for me understanding how to sit in that chair and get the work done. That's the story blankets that I talked about that I saw that kind of blew my mind. So at this point, I had worked in animation for like 10 years, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was home with my son. I was kind of teaching a class or two, and this book came out, and I actually went back to grad school to learn about comics. And comics opened up a whole new world for me that I didn't know about. I was used to how animation worked things, and this is a very different world. Kind of like stepsisters. Let's see. If you want to do this, animation or graphic novel, being an observer of people is a really important thing. So I bring my sketchbook everywhere, and I've got, we were just in the science lab drawing creatures for a project with my students, but I draw people moving around all the time at conventions. This is always with me, and I'm always taking in people I see and the weird habits they have. You really want to do this, go to Walmart to the returns line and set up shop right out inside the returns line at Walmart, and you'll be surprised at like what possessed that person to wake up that day, put that outfit on to go return her blender at Walmart. But you can't write fiction this good, you just kind of show up and there you go. Let's see. So this is more of cafe sketching, brush pen. What it teaches you when you're doing this is like if a person's got groceries and she's trying to open the car door, or she's got a wiggly toddler, like how does weight change foot to foot? What do hands look like when they're moving? How do people look exhausted, or how do they look excited? And how is that gesturally done? And can you catch it this quick? Because when you're sitting and you're drawing a comic, you don't have time to have someone stand up there and go through all of this. You kind of have to know it. And where do you get it? Where do you get the information? By sitting there and figuring out how people are, how people be. So just more of the skate park. So here's me in the ocean. That's me on the Jeep, and you can barely see. This man is on the corner here. I ended up marrying the chief. Oops. Surfing with my boy, out on the boat with my girls and my dog. So when you're creating, what do you have to have? You've got to have training, you have to have passion, and you have to have imagination. So this series came out of grad school when I was a stay-at-home mom, and I've got a little boy, and for the first time in my life, in the daytime, I'll just go to someone's house for coffee and sit and gossip. And I've never done that before. So I did a whole series on, this is called Gossip, and the bugs are wearing shoes. Like, that's just a funky period of time in my life, and I documented it in this way. Maybe an upcoming book. And this is Laguna Beach. This is Sam and Jade coming down the cliff. It's the backup book one. And it's probably quintessentially mostly what I would say about my work. It's the sunny. I paint everything in yellow ochre because we have this sunshine. The Golden State has this sunshine and everything's kind of golden. When I was in grad school, I actually got called out, and the teacher said, like, what is wrong with your palette? You don't paint dark enough. Everything you paint is very light. And I went out and I took a look, And I thought, the sky isn't really blue, it's blue-ish. And then it turns to yellow, and the hills aren't green, they're kind of a light yellow, and the water, like nothing is really saturated here. This is not Hawaii. So again, observing my environment and what I love so much, there isn't much of a value range in Southern California. It's golden light on golden hills and almost blue sky. So this quintessentially kind of says what this whole universe is about. Let me see. Are you interested to see my process, like how I accomplish this? Yeah? Okay, let me scroll through a couple of these here. Okay, I don't know if any of you in here are writers. Writing is a funky thing. Anyone write? Do you write? So, I don't know if you work like me, but sometimes stuff just starts to come into your head. And where does it come from? I have no idea. Like, I didn't ask it to come, and it starts to come, and then you kind of jot it down, and then maybe it goes away. And there are ways I've learned, since I'm older now, of how to get that channel back on. And so for me, if I have to write, it's got to be on lined paper. And they talk about writers have specific rituals they go through. It has to be lined paper, and I have to have a pen, and I have to have a clipboard, and I have to have a window. Because I'll write for a little bit and then I'll just stare. And something about the staring out allows it all to flow. It doesn't flow when you're stressed. It doesn't flow when you're having to think too much. But if you're doing things like dishes, or driving on Pacific Coast Highway, or maybe standing in the shower, as a writer, it's really important to learn how to turn the channel on to get this stuff to come out. So me sitting in front of the window with my clipboard and writing. And so that's the dreamy part, but then there's a deadline, right? So what I do here is I have to have this approved by an editor. And then it goes to a screenplay, because if you think about it, a graphic novel is nothing but dialogue. So just like writing a screenplay for animation, you'll get exterior, cliff, day. The kids are all gathered on a picnic blanket, and they're talking about Maria. And then it'll be dialogue, Sam, Jade. And so writing a script, I'm familiar with this from animation, this makes a lot of sense to me. It goes in scene, it goes in sequence. So what I have to figure out from here is, how do you make the pages turn? How do you break this up into pages? And if you know how graphic novels work, let me move forward a little bit. Thumbnails, let me get to this one particular. This is just scratchy thumbnails, and these have to get approved too. This is for book 2, and I'm going to bring this all the way through the pencils and paint. But lower right-hand corner is your important panel, because this one is, oh my gosh, turn the page. What? I'm not sure I know what to do. Look there, and look there for what? Turn the page. So I go back. Let me go back to this. I go through this and look for natural reasons to turn the page. If it says pick up the phone, hello, great way to turn the page, because what you're trying to do is drive your reader to be interested and keep going. So that bottom right panel on your odd page is the way that's the way that I find page breaks, okay? So this is what that whole thing looks like painted. I take my thumbnails, I draw sketches in pencil, I scan them, I print them to watercolor paper, and I watercolor. So the same scratchy thumbnails end up looking like this. The opening sequence of book 2 is junior lifeguards doing boat drops off the beach. So I taught junior lifeguards in Laguna, I taught junior lifeguards in a lake. Our son went through junior lifeguards. And I wanted to put junior lifeguard culture into this book because, again, it's very Southern Californian and something that not a lot of people know about. So, boat drops. The boat's going 1 billion miles an hour. The kids are all hanging off the back, and they call them out, and they tuck up into a ball, and pew, you kind of bounce. And then the boat circles back around and picks you up. And theoretically, it's for implanting lifeguards into a situation where they have to go rescue a swimmer, but the kids just think it's fun. So I opened the book on this action, trying to introduce people to junior lifeguard culture. And you can see every page starts with that yellow, and the sky starts with cerulean, because it's never that Hawaii blue. It's just not those colors. We have a different palette here, and it's very golden. So everything is underpainted with both yellow overlay and cerulean, and then I build my colors up from there. I organize my sequences like film. So in film, who saw Mulan? Okay, Mulan opens, you've got Huns and they're attacking the wall, right? They're big birdie guys and they've got flaming arrows, there's flaming arrows going on. Well, do they attack on a spring day at like 10 o'clock in the morning while like the bunnies and butterflies are going and it's pastel? No, they don't. They attack at night and it's dark and it's gray. And they're scarier looking when it's dark and it's gray. And then after that sequence, you go to Mulan's house and it's pastel. So every time you switch a sequence, you can switch a color palette. And once you do that, you're manipulating people's emotions. So you want to make sure that you're coloring things to make you feel sad or make you feel scared or make you feel like it's a summer day and you're calm. I'm not sure you can see this. I got in trouble and I had to rewrite. And how do you do that? This is an interesting thing from animation, emotion neutral board. So like, is your character happy or sad? How happy or sad? And just like a heartbeat, these are up in every animation studio, trying to figure out like, where's the tension? Can you pull the tension? Can you get sadder? Can you get happier? And you're pulling all of these story beats up and down and trying to figure out, where do I need to plus the action? And seeing it graphically laid out like this, for us visual types, is very helpful. When your editor says, I don't know, this part just needs work, like where do you start? So where I start is putting things on index cards and spreading them all out and figuring where they are on that emotion neutral line, up or down, and how much we have to shift. So anyway, I think I have a couple of pages that I really liked in here. This is one from book one. These are a couple of my favorite pages. This is from book one, and you can kind of see that Southern California thing again. Like I said, I have surfed with dolphins, and there's always kelp out there, and these sorts of sequences are really important for me to say what I'm trying to say as an artist. And another one where I had to punch up the danger. Sam didn't just go down and get scared down there, she actually got pinned down there underwater. And she got rescued by dolphins, because I write for 12-year-olds. And that would be like the thing I would want if I was 12. I want to be rescued by Flipper. So anyway, that's sort of me, in a nutshell, how I got here and how I do this. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a busy life. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you stressed out?
Always. I think generally I'm taking next semester off teaching because, I don't know, writers, when ideas come, more ideas come, and we can get a little bit, I hate to throw around the term ADHD, but we're like, ooh, shiny, because when ideas start to come, you can't really tell them like, no, shush, don't come, because we're creatives. So that gets hard. Like, how do I separate the children and tell you, like, you need to speak, but you need to all be quiet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long does it take for you to paint one page of your book?
So I can paint, I can draw like 3 pages a day, and I can paint 2 pages a day. Yeah, so it takes me about 4 hours to paint a page. Between 3 and 4 hours to paint a page. So if I'm teaching too, I usually, I think you saw, I scheduled myself out here. Oops. I had to write. I couldn't sleep at night because I knew I had 238 pages to get done the first book and 208 pages to get done the second book. And like, you can't sleep at night unless you know, if I paint 2 pages a day, which I can do, and they're on the calendar and I'm not falling off, if I know that I'm on track, I can go to sleep.
So if you miss, like, say you missed one day, right? Would it mess up your whole...
Yep, I can't miss a day.
Really? So you can't even catch up on that
No,
day?
I couldn't catch up. That's why I couldn't miss a day. And that's why it was a little stressful. I know, and that's why I'm taking a semester off teaching.
So it's like really critical for you to actually do everything every
Yes.
day.
Which means that you have to leave the birthday party early, or you don't go to the birthday party. Because I think to myself, it's really a gift. to be doing a graphic novel. Not everyone gets to do this. Not everyone has a publisher. Not everyone has people supporting them to do this. And so if I have to miss a birthday party for my art, right? Sometimes you've got to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Always send a present.
What's that?
You always send a present.
I'm sorry.
For the birthday?
Yeah. This is true. This is true. They know I love them.
Do you have a hard time? How do you manage like making sure you remember to eat and drink and sleep? Like, do you schedule yourself? Do you have a hard time with that?
I don't have trouble. Generally, like I said, if I have things scheduled out, I don't have trouble sleeping. I'm gonna get back to a pretty page. Eating, like, it's not eating, it's eating well. I think I can, the more stressy I get, the more peanut M&Ms start appearing in my life. I think that's a problem. But no, that's less of the problem. More of the problem is I fight injury. Because like sitting in the same position, my shoulder's actually rotated forward now, and I'm doing some physical therapy to get it to, but 10 years in animation and then sitting over a desk, it sits forward now, and that causes some problems. So that's why I have a problem getting up. Like I'm locked in, painting, and then it's difficult to just go like, okay, it's been an hour, I need to get up and stretch. I get sort of sucked in.
How do you remember? How do you remind yourself? Because you've been doing this a while. What are your tricks?
When I was at Disney in particular, we would keep track of time on the side of your desk. So you'd say, I got in at 7, and I'm going to take a break at 10. And then you could cut it, like it was good for me to chart out, and then they're like, well, I haven't had a break in 2 hours, I'd never get up. That's probably the best thing that I can do. The other thing I do that I learned from my son, our son is now 18, but when he was like in 3rd or 4th grade, being a boy, he was very wiggly. I know girls are wiggly too, but he was especially wiggly and was having trouble focusing on his homework. And so I would say, okay, look, I'm going to put on the timer, the kitchen timer, and we're going to sit for 25 minutes. Okay, and you do your homework for 25 minutes. No flying around the pencil, no pew 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 with the eraser. You know, like just focus. When that timer goes off, go run around 20 minutes, and then we're going to come back to the table. And that's a model I use. I'll put the timer, the kitchen timer on for an hour and a half. And then it goes beep, 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 beep. Now let me tell you a funny story. We have a dog, a Springer Spaniel. Now think of how this looks to my dog. My dog knows that I sit in a chair for most of the day. And then a timer goes off, and I walk around, and the dog jumps around, and it's like, oh, this is exciting, we're getting up now. And then I sit back in the chair and put the timer back on, and the dog lays down. And the dog doesn't know that I'm actually creating a thing. The dog just knows that I'm sitting in a chair, right?
It's like, what are you getting? Are you gonna get up?
Right, where's that timer? Because that's when we get to stand. I don't know why, but that's when we get to.
Are you gonna get some food?
Yeah. And then lunch break, she goes and stands by the back door because we go out and eat in the backyard. So I can make a little sun. Anything else? Yeah.
Did your head ever lock or
Yes.
tense up?
Yes, my fingers bend backwards and lock. Yeah, I have. And now I'm starting, at Disney it started where we would draw so much that your hand would cramp at night. And the solution was frozen peas on your wrists, and then when you sleep, you had to sleep on them flat. Because if you didn't sleep on the flat, if you woke up in the morning, they'd be in a claw, and you wouldn't be able to get them undone. That's how that went, yeah.
Have you ever thought about giving up?
Not this. I thought about giving up other things for this. Right now, this is making me the most happy.
Really?
It is. I really enjoy it. This next book, I have the 3rd book to get done. And the next book, I've promised myself that I'm only going to work about 6 hours a day. I'm going to go kayaking in the morning, or out for a swim in the bay, or for a run, and then I'm going to work maybe 3 hours and have lunch and work 3 hours and not hurt, because I feel like at the age that I am, I deserve that after all the work I've done.
That's crazy because, some people, they love what they're doing, but they just give up because it's too much. And it's hard to, find people who doesn't want to give up.
No. I don't want to give this up. I feel very fortunate to be able to do this. I really love it. I know I have a lot of friends who have been trying to do this and aren't as lucky as I am. So I figure while it's going, while people still want to read the book, and while my publisher is still excited about the book, I will keep rolling with this. Maybe there will be time for other things in my life. Someday I'll get too old to do it all, and I'll just go get myself a couple of llamas and a goat and have a little ranch somewhere. A couple bunnies.
What is the favorite scene you ever animated for Disney?
The favorite scene I worked on, let's see, I really, really loved Mulan. I loved Mulan, and there was she's singing that song where she's singing to the ancestors and she's in their little family temple, and she had her skirts and she skips over the bridge, and I loved that very much. I don't know, I loved that whole musical sequence. I had been sent to Florida for that one. I was working with the Florida team, and they were a wonderful crew of people to work with. And I think it said, "Be myself." Those are the words. Yeah, anyway, that was a pretty
Did you get me all in to do any of the film before you were drawing? Or
There was a lot of filming that went on, and a lot that was taken from her. I kind of come in toward the end of things doing cleanup animation, and so I'm definitely a wrist, when we're just getting scenes passed through. But, so yeah, I was way late in the game to actually be there with her. Yeah, so anything else you want to know about? What's that?
Do you miss being with Disney?
No, it was really fun. What I miss is being social and very social. I like people, and luckily I get to teach students. And that gives me my sociality. And an animation studio has students. I mean, not students, but like coworkers, people that you get to talk to on your breaks. Being a comic book artist is very isolating. You're in a room, you're in your office, like by yourself with your dog. And so I miss the social aspect of it, but I saw people who wanted to try to raise children through those years and never got to see their kids, and how sad that made them, and I thought that's never going to be me. So when it was time for me to have a family, I decided that's not how my life's going to go.
And last question. Wait, sorry, I forgot.
It's okay.
Never mind.
Okay.
Do you ever remember certain details inside something and you draw it out?
All the time. Okay, so at the CVS 2 days ago, the girl was wearing a beanie with her hair sticking out from under it. She was wearing a strappy tank top, a bra with a strap down the middle, and overalls. And then the overalls went low, and she had red and white striped underwear, and socks and Birkenstocks. And I thought, and a giant hobo bag. And I thought, I've got to get that drawn, because again, you can't write stuff that good. You just look at what people do, and so stuff like that sits in my head. And sometime that outfit will come out in something, in some book, in some crowd scene. That outfit will come out.
So when you see something, do you draw it right then and there, or do you wait until you go home and then draw it out?
Often I'll draw it right then and there. But I was in the CVS line and it was moving quickly, and I thought, I'm not going to get it, but I'm just going to remember it. Airports, a lot of drawing goes on at airports when I'm waiting for a plane.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of waiting. Yes, but you know what, sadly, you know what people do anymore? You know what the one position people is in anymore? This is it.
Yeah.
This is all you draw.
Or the computers.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have any questions, yeah.
Do your family and friends support you, or do they get mad at you because you can't do certain things with them?
Well, it's a funny story you ask about family, because my dad was a colonel in the Marine Corps. And I was not allowed to take art in high school. I had to take science and language as my electives because he didn't feel art was proper to learn, and it was not a proper career. So, rebellious Kim, what I would do in community college, I take every art class I can get my hand on, right? And if there's a 6-hour watercolor class on a Saturday, I can't be happier because I've never been allowed. And so, yeah, I, did all this, and he wasn't super happy. The other girl in my book, Jade, is my best friend, Melissa. And while we were in college, I'm at community college, lifeguarding, surfing, and taking art classes. And she's at MIT on a full-ride scholarship as an aeroastro engineer. Okay, so I didn't look like I was making much progress in the world during those years, but you can see it was all kind of building up, right? When I made more money than my dad when I was working in animation, and I called him and I said, now I make more money than you. He finally, he's my biggest fan now.
Really?
He's my biggest fan, but it took a long time for him to come around to this this whole thing.
If you weren't rebellious in college and didn't take any art classes, do you think you'll be here today?
Nope. No, I would have been a physical therapist.
Okay.
I'd be working with athletes who have toy muscles. That was plenty.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Sometimes I think it's important to have people who are really supportive of you, and sometimes I think it works just as well when you have people who are like, no, you can't, and you're like, oh yeah, watch me.
Yeah, and then you prove them wrong.
Yes, that's exactly it.
So while you were lifeguarding, was it pretty much Baywatch and you married David Hasselhoff?
Kind of. We just went, we have a boat in Long Beach and lobster season opened, and so I just drove the boat out at night 2 weekends ago, and he went scuba with a couple friends and got me some lobster for dinner. And it reminded me of those years when we were dating and we would grab the scuba stuff from lifeguard headquarters, we'd go straight out front in Laguna to Bird Rock and go catch lobster out there. Yeah, back in the day. So yes, it was,
You married David Hasselhoff.
I kind of did, yeah.
This might be like a weird question, but how long have you guys been married for?
This is our anniversary weekend. It's 27 years. Thank you very much. Long time. So it was actually Thursday, and I said, hey, why don't we just make this into a trip? And so we did.
Does he ever help you with your like ideas and stuff, or is it mostly just you?
We hash it out over coffee on the couch in the morning. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, I have to solve this. Like, I have to have this thing be a thing that it's not. Like, how can I hide it? Maybe it's a recycling center. He's like, that's dumb. I'm not going to be a recycling. I'm like, no, it's not dumb. No, it's got to be a dump. Like, no, a dump is dumb. So we talk back and forth like this. But then when he starts having too much of his own ideas, I shut him down.
As you should.
Don't tell me what to do. No. That rebellion comes out again.
For the books you've written, has he ever given you a really good idea that you put in your book, or?
Yes. Yeah, there have been some that have come out of our discussions, and I can't come up with one off the top of my head. But there definitely have been situations where I'm like, ooh, and my son too. My son will say, I know. I'll say, I'm going to use that. So,
That's good.
Yeah, I don't know, like people, life, all that stuff, if you're open to it, I think it all comes through and then comes out.
Is your dog really a support? Is he supporting you?
My dog has gotten older, and she kind of lays in the corner now.
Have you ever drawn her?
You know what? I don't know why I don't draw Sally. When she was a puppy, I used to draw her quite a bit, but I don't draw. And I was thinking that, like, how sad that is that I have my own little doggy model and I don't draw her very much. Yeah.
Would you ever draw your dog in your book coming up?
I have thought about giving the family a dog, but book one, no spoilers, but there is a mysterious dinosaur-like creature that shows up that has to get taken away, and so Petey ends up with an iguana. So I don't think I want to introduce another animal into the family because it's very specifically has to be an iguana because it has to replace the mystery dinosaur thing that got taken away. Yes. No spoilers. I really, really do love the research for all this. Like I had to find certain key clues or plot points, and when you dig into the research about what you're doing, like the world opens. And I honestly think I'll probably end up doing some nonfiction graphic novels about like early California history stories you didn't know. Like that story of the Hawaiians living in the bread oven in San Diego. That's ridiculous. Like you can't make that stuff up. It happens.